It was just another day, another stop. Or at least that's what Sandra Bland thought when she left her home in Illinois. On July 10, 2015, the 28-year-old black woman was driving through Waller County, Texas, headed to her new job at Prairie View A&M University. A fresh start awaited her in this new chapter of life. The sun was shining. Her spirit was high. But little did Sandra know, this would be the last trip she would ever make on this earth. It was a day that would unravel a chain of events so tragic, so shocking, that it would captivate a nation and demand questions to a justice system that was failing its people. Just minutes into her drive, Sandra was stopped by a police officer for a minor infraction, changing lanes without signaling. It seemed like a routine traffic stop, the kind that happens every day on American roads. Sandra, ever respectful, rolled down her window, expecting to hand over her license and registration and be on her way. But this was no ordinary traffic stop. This would be the beginning of a nightmare. Officer Brian Encinia approached Sandra's car with an air of authority, but his tone quickly shifted to aggression. He demanded that she put out her cigarette. When Sandra hesitated, as anyone might when asked something so trivial, the officer's voice turned cold. "I'm giving you a lawful order," he said, his words clipped and sharp. Sandra, frustrated and confused, asked, "Why are you being so mean?" But the moment the words left her lips, the officer's demeanor shifted again, this time toward hostility. His aggression escalated, and before Sandra could even process what was happening, he ordered her out of her vehicle. Sandra's world turned upside down in an instant. The traffic stop, which should have been a brief inconvenience, had transformed into something far darker. Sandra was caught off guard. "You don't have the right to do this," she shouted. As the officer grew more forceful, she asked again, "Why are you being so mean?" But the questions went unanswered. The situation spiraled out of control. Within moments, Officer Encinia was dragging Sandra out of her car, her body slamming against the hot asphalt, her rights stripped away with every push and pull. The officer's calm, authoritative exterior gave way to a vicious power struggle. Sandra's attempt to ask questions, to defend herself, was dismissed. Her voice was swallowed by the injustice of it all. And that's when things took a turn no one could have anticipated. Sandra was arrested, handcuffed, and taken to Waller County Jail. What was meant to be a simple traffic stop had escalated into something far more dangerous, something that would change the lives of Sandra's family, friends, and millions around the world. Hours later, Sandra was dead. The jail would claim that it was suicide, that Sandra had taken her own life by hanging herself with a trash bag. But could it really be that simple? Could Sandra, a woman full of life, driven by ambition, and excited for her new job, really have taken her own life behind bars? Or was there something darker at play? When news of Sandra's death broke, the world was stunned. The idea that a woman, arrested for a minor traffic violation, could be dead in a cell just hours later was beyond comprehension. People began asking questions, demanding answers. How could this happen? What went wrong? The official narrative was that Sandra had taken her own life, but the inconsistencies were glaring, and the evidence didn't match the story being told. As more details emerged, the public's anger grew. Video footage of Sandra's arrest surfaced, showing not just her resistance, but the officer's aggression and undue force. Sandra had been calm, polite, and respectful, but her arrest was anything but routine. She was yanked out of her car without justification, handcuffed with force, and left in a cell to die. Officer Encinia's actions, his decision to escalate the situation when it was never necessary, painted a chilling picture of an unchecked power dynamic, one that didn't care about Sandra's life, one that saw her not as a person but as an inconvenience. The death of Sandra Bland sparked a firestorm. The hashtag Justice for Sandra Bland spread across social media like wildfire. Protests erupted. People marched for justice. Sandra's family, her mother, her sisters, and her loved ones, refused to accept the official narrative. They knew their loved one was not suicidal. They knew the truth was something far more sinister. Sandra's arrest, the brutality she experienced, and the failures of the justice system were all part of a larger, ugly story. a story of oppression, systemic injustice, and the abuse of power. The case went to court, and the investigation continued. The officer, Brian Encinia, was fired from his position, but the criminal charges didn't come. The justice system failed Sandra once again. Officer Encinia was not criminally charged for his actions. Instead, the tragedy of Sandra Bland's death was ruled as a suicide by hanging. But the public was not willing to accept this as the final word. Sandra's family didn't back down. They continued their fight for justice, demanding accountability. Their relentless pursuit led to a civil lawsuit, which resulted in a settlement of $1.9 million. It was a victory of sorts, but it came at a high price. The system had failed Sandra, and though her family received financial compensation, they knew nothing could bring Sandra back. What they wanted was justice, not money. They wanted the world to know the truth, to know that Sandra's death wasn't just a tragic accident. It was the result of a series of unjust actions by those who were supposed to serve and protect. Though Officer Encinia was not charged criminally, his actions led to significant changes. His firing was a direct result of the public outcry, and his dismissal sent a message that even in the face of systemic failures, accountability was still possible. It wasn't enough for Sandra's family, but it was something. It was a small victory in the ongoing fight for justice, for change, and for the thousands of people who have suffered at the hands of a broken system. Sandra Bland's story is one that will forever echo in the hearts of those who knew her. Her death was a turning point, a moment that highlighted the deep flaws within the justice system. But Sandra's legacy, her fight for justice, and the movement that sprang from her death will live on. In the face of injustice, Sandra's family didn't back down. They fought for truth. They fought for their daughter. They fought for every person who had ever felt the sting of oppression. In the end, Sandra's story is a painful reminder that justice doesn't come easily, but it is also a story of strength, resilience, and the unwavering belief that even when the system fails, we must keep fighting. Sandra Bland may have died in that cell, but her voice, her life, and her story will never be silenced. They will live on in the hearts of those who continue to fight for justice and in the millions who still demand answers. Sandra's story is a lesson. The truth may be hidden, but it will always come to light. And as long as we fight for it, justice can be served. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for future deep dives into the most shocking true crime cases. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more true crime cases that demand to be heard.